Well, sadly, our great state has been battered by heavy rain and severe weather patterns over the past fortnight. As we know, that has turned into heavy flooding right across the east coast. And our thoughts do go out to all those who have been impacted over the past 2 weeks. Now, the harness racing industry is one that has felt the toll of this. I mean, dealing with having to move horses through heavy flooding. What we have seen is people get around each other, and as we know, the Miracle Mile Carnival is one that had to be called off at short notice due to that torrent on Saturday night. Now, this area around Menangle is one that is still feeling the impact and dealing with the cleanup. Bruce, I saw you Saturday night. You're looking at your phone, the Bureau of Meteorology. You were nervous, but it probably exceeded expectations, didn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we were very nervous. We were watching it. We knew it was coming, but we certainly didn't expect that. I've said to a few people, we didn't really anticipate not running the Miracle Mile. That wasn't really ever in the equation. It was just a matter of, that's going to be a real problem for the people that are here and for the participants and things that make it sort of a messy sort of night for everybody involved. But yeah, we certainly didn't expect the ferocity that we got sort of from that storm, and between the lightning and the level of rain that we got both then and sort of continued on in the days after as well.
Just talk me through what that impact of that storm ended up being. I mean, the magnitude of the flooding was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly, I mean, old timers tell me there has been sort of higher levels of flooding in terms of what they've seen on the land, but they're certainly the highest readings that anybody has for the river around this area. So that gives an indication of how severe it was. Fortunately for the complex, the flood mitigation works that were done when the track was built worked well. So we got no water on the track, nothing into the main part of the grandstand complex, but we did get some damage into the main stables through the Garrard's Horse and Hound shop and down into the TV studio. So we're probably fortunate compared to a lot of others around, so I'm certainly not going to complain. We could have been far worse than we were, but it's still got to be rectified, of course.
A drone went up in the air and probably managed to capture the full scale of it. It's incredible to see, isn't it?
Oh, it is, and that, I found that really interesting because we're seeing what we're seeing coming in and out of the complex, and we knew especially around the viaduct how affected that had been, and we couldn't get vehicles in or out there for a couple of days, so we knew that was severely impacted. But to sort of see from the air how wide-reaching it was and how wide that river becomes, and we know it's there, but we don't normally see it, so it's at sort of 100 metres or so behind the track, and you don't just actually see it through the trees and things, but to see those aerial shots and just how wide that river had spread and all around us, yeah, it's certainly amazing shots.
Now, this is one of those spots that probably gives us a really good idea of just how much water and how high it came up. As you can see, that clearance mark there, 3.4 metres. This is the back access to the track here at Menangle. And staff on Monday, when this was at its worst, when it was absolutely at its height, did some video just to give us an idea of how much water was coming through. Have a look at this. It is absolutely beyond belief. A horse race is one thing, but we're talking about a whole part of Sydney suburbia here, aren't we, that are impacted by it. A horse race is a horse race. We can rerun it, but it's the impact on the people in this community that must really be hard to kind of process.
Exactly right. I mean, we've got some staff who've been affected personally in terms of that live locally, and many of us have been impacted from a travelling point of view. But you're quite right. We said that we can put the Miracle Mile back a week. We can run it again, and yes, there's inconveniences. Of course, we've got people from interstate and things that are affected by that, but you look at what's happening here locally, particularly around Camden, have been really severely impacted through the main street, and again, levels that they've never seen before, and all the way up the north coast and into Queensland. Albion Park severely impacted, both in terms of the track and the facilities there. So yeah, whilst we didn't want it to happen, certainly compared to others around us, it is a race, and we'll be able to run it this Saturday.
Now have a look at this. This is the paddock next to the access road, which goes up to the training centre here at Menangle. To give you an idea of the sheer volume and density of the water that came through here, this is the tree line. As you can see, about halfway up, well over my head, there's a mud line, a water line, which shows just how much water came through here. It is incredible. Morris, you're the point of contact for so many people in the industry that have been doing it so tough through these floods. They are just heartbreaking stories, aren't they?
They're terrible. They talk about unprecedented event. Well, we've had them for the last couple of years. We've had COVID, we've had the bushfires, and now we've got these major flooding events, and the stories that are coming through are dead set heartbreaking.
Yeah, and we're seeing photos, videos, first-hand witness accounts of what they're going through. And I mean, an industry like the equine industry really does need support at a time like this, don't they?
It does. It's not only the people, but their horses for sure. People swimming horses to safety. It's just bizarre, but that's what we're dealing with at the moment. And fortunately, the industry will come together and we'll look after everybody.
And what's been the response from people? Because you are the point of contact. I mean, you're fielding a lot of calls from people, aren't you?
I am, yes. It's just basically they're pleased to know that Harness Racing New South Wales are prepared to look after them and also that we're there to support them through what they're going through.
Is it anything? I mean, what we're seeing is that people in the harness racing community, whether it's even just stabling ahead of an event, they get around and they help each other. Now we're seeing that amplified even to the next level where people are saying, well, I've got somewhere where you can put your horses, or I'll come and help you get them out, aren't we?
We are, most definitely. And as I spoke about swimming horses to safety, well, it hasn't been just their own horses. They've pitched in and helped others do that. So, no, it's really good to see.
Gee, Kerry, you've done it tough. I mean, 6 floods in 6 years you've copped now?
Yeah, we have, 2 in 2 weeks. One last week and it went down, and we thought, okay, we can sort of, start to clean up a little bit. And then we got a phone call saying, no, it's coming back again and they're expecting it to be higher. So we had, our main horses in our 14-horse barn. We had 12 in there at a time and we thought they were going to be okay. And then we were working horses on Tuesday morning and our farrier was there shoeing and he said, Kez, you better get home. It's coming up. We got home pretty quickly, got all those horses moved within sort of 45 minutes, got the 12 out and loaded, and thank goodness for Emilio Rosati because he's opened up his yards and paddocks for us. We got them out and literally within sort of half an hour of us leaving the horses out, it went in the barn and it just kept coming. It was like, probably rose 1.5 metres, 2 metres in the barn. So the whole barn's got to be cleaned out and whatever. And all the paddocks and yards and everything were gone. They've been underwater for almost a week, now.
Some of those photos and that video, it's heartbreaking stuff to see.
Yeah, it is. It's, but it's the land, it's the track, it's the gear. Those things you can fix, those you can replace. But, the horses were number one priority. And as I said, without Emilio Rosati's property, just only 10 minutes away from us and him opening his doors, we would have been struggling really badly.
How'd you get the horses out? I know you and Mason Beresford to get in and pull some out?
Yeah, we last week we had there was a day that it come up really quickly. We didn't expect, we were finished working them, went up inside, had some lunch and then looked out the back and it was starting to come over the track and the paddock. So we rounded the boys. We've got Leighton Green as well and our son and Tony's been helping us and another guy that works with us, Sam, who does the maintenance normally. We just said we need to get in quick smart and get these horses out. So Mason and I had to go for a little bit of a swim but the horses, credit to them, the standees, they're so hardy, they just take everything in their stride. They just very calmly walked out through us and as you saw in the photo, we're up to our chest in water and they were just nicely, calmly, walking out there with us. So
that's a pretty scary experience in itself. That was deep water you were...
Yeah, well, it's funny about the first flood we had back in 2016, we had American Dream and Maximizer, one of our trotters. First flood we'd ever experienced and we didn't expect it. I got a phone call from Elin Olsen that was working with us at the time. She was over at Leppington and she said, are you guys all right? And I asked why and she said, Menangle's flooding and they're expecting, and Picton's under and everything. I went down the back and I found Maximizer and American Dream up to their chest standing at a gate. So my son and I walked in because Dean had a bad knee at the time. My son and I just walked into the gate, clipped the halter and lead on them and they just walked out and they actually won. We raced them the next day and they won. So wow. It was phenomenal. That's what I mean, the standees. Yeah, I don't want to go through that to win, I'd rather not go through all of that. But we're fortunate because our land is, yes, it's in a gully and it's not great that it floods, but we've got access to get them to higher ground. Our home's okay, our home wasn't touched. Everything that's been affected, we can fix, we can replace. So we're a lot more fortunate than a number of other people that have been really badly affected, their homes and everything.
Hey, mate, some pretty incredible scenes where you had to pull horses out of the water the other night.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. The waters came up so quickly, and so we only had a couple left out in paddocks. Didn't really expect it to come out so quick, so we had to go out there and pull them all through, but yeah, it was all right. Lucky we got them out when we did, because the water just kept coming.
When you had a look, what did you see, and what was your first thought?
Oh, it was crazy, because that afternoon the water only just started to come up a bit, and then we came out in the arvo, and it was just all the paddocks were underwater, so it's pretty intense, really.
I guess you just instinct kicks in, is it? And just I got to save these horses.
Yeah. So we went down and we looked if we could cut the fence or be able to walk them through the gate. So we ended up being able to take them through the gate because it wasn't too deep.
Yeah. And that water was pretty high though, mate. That was up over your chest.
Yeah, it was up to my chest, but it's all right.
They sort of led the way, did they, or were you?
Yeah, they were a bit sceptical once they looked at it, but once they hopped in, they realised that we were saving them, so they were all right about it.
Well, Joe and Mary, you hear him in angle because you got to put your horses somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, home is just too wet. We've lost half our track from the rundown down the hill. We just never seen anything like it. Like there was, 4 metres wide coming down the track, and it was a good 8 inches deep. Yeah, so we had to put them somewhere. We can't work them at home. We spoke to a guy to bring in some material to repair the track, and he's not going to get on it for 4 weeks, especially if this rain comes again this weekend. So we had to do something, and that's when I spoke to John Dummersey, and he said, yep, we can fit 12, but we've got a few more horses to bring as well.
Yeah.
So we sort of, bring what we can.
Just heartbreaking, Mary?
It is really heartbreaking. Like, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We were going to go to Melbourne and stay at Ahmed's place, and then I said to Joe, a better place. I says, why don't we ring John and see how we can go? And everything doesn't really change as much, and we can go forward and we can virtually work straight away. And it's not as a big as move as if we were going to Melbourne. So, and then Joe said, yeah, let's do it.
And Joe, what was the worst of your conditions on your property?
Oh, definitely the track, but like just walking across the grass,
It's
you sink 2 inches in. It's like it's never going to dry. But the track is the worst, and the stables are just so wet.
The divots everywhere where we walk, the divots are horrible. Like, we can't even drive the car over it. It's that bad.
Yeah. And your horses had
literally mud up to their knees. Yeah. And I've never had mud like that in the stables. Never, ever have we ever had mud like that. They've always been on top of the ground. The poor buggers, it's just so wet, they're sinking. They sink to their knees.
I don't think it's ever been that high. We have mares and foals, and we had to move the mares and foals because they were going to be right in the middle of it. And it's just come all the way up to the gates, the paddocks. It's horrendous. It's scary, actually.
This is the property across the road from the track, Robbie and Kerry Ann Morris's property, Lucky Lodge. Now, by midnight on Monday night, water was up over this fence, and obviously with horses in the property, that was a very, very scary moment for the family. What happened here, mate? Where was the water?
So if you probably look at those 2 gates a bit further down, the water come up to there. You couldn't get any further, and you see if there's a bridge about 100 yards down the driveway there, it was completely gone, and the water come all the way up, so you couldn't see a fence line from probably those gates just down there. So from there on, the water come up from the viaduct, and it come really fast, yeah.
And you had a horse down there underwater?
Yeah, please shut up. He lives in that paddock there, and he was over there sort of near them rails, but they were gone. And to get to him, I had to get to them gates, so we had to go swimming and got him out, and then we had some brood mares that are down in that bottom paddock that were waiting to go, so me and Josh come out, and we got home from Newcastle at like 9 o'clock, and there was no real water to be seen. It was still just down at the viaduct, and everything was fine. And then 12 o'clock I got up just to double check, and it was bad. Like, you could not see. We had to swim from sort of that bridge down there. I couldn't touch the ground anymore. I had to swim down to the next gate and get into that big paddock and then swimming back. But yeah, it was actually a little bit of a, we were lucky because the water wasn't really running. It was just water. So you feel for all them people that get stuck in them terrible floods and the water's rushing and taking everything with them. But yeah, it was still a little bit scary, but we got them out, and yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. I mean, you have been here a fair while, and it's never been this bad, has it?
No, well, that's it. Mum and Dad bought here when I was 5, so I lived here for 25 years, and I've never seen the water like it. Like every now and again in a big storm, you'll see the water build up a little bit, but it's gone as quick as it comes. But yeah, like that viaduct down there, you couldn't see the whole of the viaduct. Like it was pretty hairy, and it got right up into Ricky's paddocks across the road, and yeah, it was, and just come fast too. Yeah,
incredible to think that we look out here, it's just all land. You're swimming in it.
Yeah, me and Josh, because each paddock's got obviously a drain that runs underneath each entrance to the paddock, so you sort of had to really remember the lay of the land. When your feet did touch the ground, you didn't know where you were, and a couple of them brood mares, when I was getting them out of that bottom paddock there, you're trying to keep them on the path of where you think their legs can touch the ground, and all of a sudden one would go down and you'd go with them and you'd come back up. But no, it was, yeah, look, it's hard for the horses too, because when the water rises, they couldn't see the fence line. So you didn't want them to get away on you, because if they did get away and started swimming, next minute they swim into a fence. So yeah, it was a little bit hairy, but it's amazing how smart they are. Like Princess Kenny, she's our brood mare, and she's just a beautiful girl, but she just knew where to go. She towed me out of there. I was behind a boat. I just had a lead on her, and she was just going. Once she got up here, I just let her go, and she come up here and started picking. So yeah, it was just one of them things. You got to be careful, but yeah, hopefully we never see anything like it again. We were lucky though, because other than a few of me hay bales getting moved around, like all the fences were fine and didn't have a lot of damage. Maybe the driveway's a bit cactus. We've got to get that fixed up. Things get fixed up today, but yeah, it's just one of them things.
Now, I spoke to Luke McCarthy yesterday, and their Cobbity property was severely damaged by the floods. Their training track copped a lot of damage. Now, he sent me these videos. This is the before of the track, looking at the damage that they endured. And now if we have a look, Luke put about 5 hours work on the tractor into it, and he's got it back to a state where it is now operational again. This is very indicative of what people right across the industry have been suffering over the past fortnight. Now, these are the stables here at Menangle. There is a similar size structure on the McCarthy property at Cobbity. Now, it was fully submerged in the floods, which is incredible to fathom. John McCarthy spoke on the coverage on Saturday night, talked about some of the things they had to endure just to rescue horses. Jack Callaghan told me they were out in boats just to try and rescue horses. Incredible scenes on a rural property.
John, have you ever seen conditions like this?
Not really, Gareth. Like we've had a flood before since I've been down here, but this flood was the biggest one we've had so far. And yeah, it's pretty torrential rain out there tonight, so hopefully, we don't get another flood.
Yeah. Explain the week that you've had. You had a scary moment a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, the river was coming up fast, and I don't know why I woke at 3 in the morning and I went outside and I thought I could see the glare of the water, and I thought, geez, that's getting close to up near the house. And I went down, I knew I had mare and foals in the paddock, so I went down to go and find the mares and foals, and before I knew it, I was in water up to my chest. And the two littlest foals, I had two little bling-it-on fillies there, and I'm in the dark trying to find them, and I just seen them, and the two little blings' heads were just out of the water.
So unbelievable.
Oh, it was scary, and I had 5 mares and foals there, but we got them out, and it took me an hour and a half to get 5 mares and foals out, but I don't like the look of this sort of rain coming now. Like the river's gone down a fair bit, but it won't take much to bring it up again.
John told a story on the coverage the other night about 3 o'clock in the morning and a couple of 2-year-old foals, 2-year-olds, out there. Yeah. You need to go and rescue.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. That was last week. You had to rescue some, and then it got even worse. Over the start of this week. So we went out there, and actually myself and John, we went on his neighbour's boat, and we were just riding around on a boat over the top of fences and shelters and things like that. So it was pretty crazy, really, to think how much water was actually there.
Yeah, that's mad to think that on a farm property, essentially, you're going around on a boat, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think John said there was probably close to 50 acres of his place was just completely underwater, and it actually did go through his barns and stables, and it rose pretty quick. So that was a bit unfortunate, but at the end of the day, everyone was still safe and no one got seriously hurt. So that's the main thing.
Now, I also spoke to trainer Troy Williams. His property at Windsor completely flooded. It is just heartbreaking to see. Have a look at this clip of some of what he sent me. It is unbelievable to see.
Fair bit of water flowing through at the moment. We've got built-in water walkers. It has gone down about a foot, which is positive signs for us here. But pretty much every yard's underwater, and the house is probably about sort of half a metre at this stage. But positive thing is it's going down. Probably a fair bit of clean-up to be done, but at the end of the day, we'll take all the horses to Menangle, and they're at Penrith at Current, and the guys there have been fantastic. But we'll head to Menangle, and probably I'm tipping we'll be out for a little while until we can get it sorted. But plenty of water here, and I'm tipping a lot of clean-up. There's a lot of damage in underneath the house, so but it is what it is. The horses are safe, we're safe. There's a lot of other people going through a lot worse. So, but that's our beautiful waterfront views here at Grinnell Lodge.
John, just terrible and obviously unforeseen circumstances that our state and our industry's copped.
Yeah, certainly. It's across the whole eastern seaboard, but we'll concentrate on the harness racing aspect. Whilst we're thinking of the rest of the community, we've got to think of our own community, and it's marvellous how, as a fraternity, people have rallied around and helped each other out. Harness Racing New South Wales will come in the next stage.
And what do you foresee that next stage will look like?
Well, it'll be like it has in the past. We've suffered floods before, and we get in and we help with restoration of tracks. We help with replacement of infrastructure where we can see that it was a real need. There's other things such as bedding, feed that are lost in these floods. That will be looked at as well. And all we can really ask for is those who have contacted us, and many people have contacted us, that they go through the process. There'll be a little bit of time now before these tracks can be restored, because of the fact that the call on contractors will be lengthy, because there's so much other work to be done just within the community.
And just so impressive, the mateship and the roll your sleeves up and help each other out attitude, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's not like me to go down and swim into the water and try to help anyone. I'm thinking of them. So is the rest of Harness Racing New South Wales. Morris Logue has been on the phone non-stop. Yeah, I've been on the phone non-stop as well, but it's we can't actually do that sort of work, but what we can do is help after the event.
Yeah, and just the way trainers, drivers, anyone involved in this industry has just got in and helped each other out and provided shelter for horses or helped rescue horses.
Yeah, well, and that's the case. Whether it was in the training centre here where we took in extra horses, and I must mention John Lovell that was doing a shuttle service between the only access into the property and the training and the stables themselves. He did that off and on. He was up all night looking at things. Then you've got other people. Troy Williams moved his horses into Penrith Paceway, and Tash did a wonderful job there. And the McDowells, they've been underwater more than once in the last couple of years. They were able to go to the Rosati property. So everybody pitches in where they can, and we help as much as we can. The real work will happen now afterwards. There's a lot of damage. We've seen the damage. We will restore where we can, and we'll seek government assistance where we can also.
The good news is the Menangle staff have worked tirelessly since this deluge over the past few days, and somehow they've got the track back to a fantastic working condition, and the sun is out. Great signs ahead of the Miracle Mile on Saturday night. Dave, it was only a few nights ago we saw you in the most torrential conditions on television having a look at this track, and here we are, beautiful sunshine, and the track certainly looks in pretty good condition now.
Yeah, amazing scenes, Paul. I think I got rain burn on my head that night. It was just blowing and the wind was so severe. The rain was just so intense. Someone said, why didn't you have your umbrella up? I said, because I felt like Mary Poppins, I was going to blow away. But yeah, just amazing scenes. I've never ever seen rain like that. That was just incredible what happened there on Saturday night. Just amazing to think that we somehow all got through it, and here we are today, ready to rock and roll this Saturday.
How bad did the track get? I mean, we've seen some pictures where it was fairly corrugated.
Yeah, amazing. the corrugations here wasn't from the Saturday night. Saturday night was intense. Monday night, as we've seen throughout all of the Camden region and stuff like that, the amount of rain that came through the place, we had 4 inches of water go through the stables. It was in the studio. It was in the steward's room. And you know how elevated the steward's room is. It went through all the boys' meal rooms. So we've got mud and that. We had 6-7 inch corrugations here yesterday, Wednesday. Amazingly, somehow they were still able to work on the outside of the track, but Jimmy's been able to turn this track around. That we've got to this situation now today that we've actually trialled here on Thursday, just had 5 trials. We've still got a few issues with some timing and stuff like that, but the track's just come up outstanding. I just can't give enough credit to James and his crew.
How much work has gone into this? Because, as you said, it's in outstanding condition right now. How much work's gone into it over the last few days?
The boys have been working overtime, but this is their love. They enjoy the challenges sometimes, and this has been a real challenge to them. Yesterday they were on the track for 10 hours. They left here at dinner time. They were here again at 5:30 this morning. The track lights were on for anyone that wanted to work on it. They'll be here all day. There's still a lot of fine tuning and trimming to be done, but they were running 56s and 55s today at the trials, the 2-year-olds, so track will be ready to rock and roll come Saturday.
Can't wait for this race. I mean, a race that we thought may not even happen there for a little bit there last Saturday, to know that it's about to happen and the track's in great condition, that must feel great.
Yeah, and it's good the horses here in retention, so all the Miracle Mole trainers and horses have all had a look at it. They can't believe where it's up to, because Luke has been here and seen the damage that was done. He worked his horses here yesterday along with Mac Dan. They all worked really well, but that was on the outside of the track. They come here today and they're just blown away by how well the boys have done to be able to turn this track around.
You must be so proud of the work that your staff has put in over the past few days to make sure that this race can go ahead this week.
Oh, for sure. And it's one thing that people putting the work in, but it's the attitude. It's like they are so passionate about this, and it is our big event, the Miracle Mile. So people like, from leading from the top, from David Watson as the racing manager, but then your James Changs, Yohan Mulligans, and Darren Beavers, the guys who are here day in, day out, for their big event to be affected like this. It's almost personal for them, and the way they've just got stuck in from making sure the trainers can still use the complex. Like, so from Sunday we had trainers back out here on the track on Sunday training, so to make sure that was safe for them to do that. It wasn't racing standard, but it was sufficient for training. Getting the lights on at 4 o'clock in the morning so the trainers can get out here and train before they were going to work. Our guys needed to get onto the track at 8 o'clock in the morning, so they wanted to give them some time to train before that. So working in with these guys as well, but primarily making sure that the track is at the standard it has to be for a Miracle Mile.
These are chronic and unprecedented times, but what we have seen is the harness racing industry has this beautiful ability to get around each other and help each other out. If you do need help though, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We're here to help if required.